Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Ambassador Lin, Henry Wang, the President of the China Center for Globalization, ambassadors present, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic struck us like a bolt of lightning. And in that flash of the lightning, we saw the contours of inequality really emerge. And in what we are presented is what I call the triple C crisis, a crisis of the COVID, which is a health crisis, a crisis of climate, which is an existentialist threat, and a crisis of poverty and conflicts, which are engaging each other. So what we are seeing is rising inequalities within countries, and we are seeing rising inequalities between countries. So what is it that we could be doing to rebuild, recover, and research? That is what I have come here to learn today, and from such a distinguished group of ambassadors present here. What is clear, Excellency, is we need global solidarity. Even at the height of the Cold War, smallpox was eradicated. Today, more than ever, we need countries, scientists, doctors to come together, and perhaps the magic vaccine lies somewhere in between, and make sure that we come out of this pandemic robustly and perhaps prevent a future pandemic to happen. And therefore, the intricate necessity of rebuilding and recalibrating multilateralism therefore becomes very much at the centerpiece of this. Excellency, we need action on the sustainable development goals. They're slipping back. People are going back into poverty. In fact, as per the latest report of the UN Global Crisis Response Group, 60% of workers have lower real incomes than before the pandemic. For the first time in decades, the number of people living below the international poverty line has increased exponentially. And this is unacceptable. So therefore, when we are talking about action on the SDGs, any effort by any member state to advance the sustainable development goals is most welcome. Globally or locally. But these are initiatives that can only happen when the congruence of member states, when the congruence of public-private partnerships, when the congruence of putting women and youth at the very center of our development agenda starts to happen. The third, and most important, is to leave no one behind. That is the very principle on which the Sustainable Development Goals is practiced. That is the very principle around which all member states across the world agree that the Sustainable Development Goals must stand robustly as a North Star for our shared future as we advance to the 2030. And that will not happen if we have half of humanity, women, children, people living in least developed countries, people living in small island states are men. So it is a collective responsibility, and therefore the Sustainable Development Goals remains the North Star around which we must all unite completely. Now, the 2030 agenda itself is premised on three pillars. Pillar number one is peace and security. Pillar number two is development. Pillar number three is human rights. They are not separable from each other. They are a collective whole, and we must move with them as a whole. So, when we talk about the 2030 agenda, it is a cohesive and an integrated agenda encompassing the three pillars that I mentioned. And the power of the 2030 agenda comes with the recognition that the dignity of the human person is fundamental for all nations and for all people and for all segments of society. That will remain our constant endeavor as the UN family, and that is what I, as the UN resident coordinator in China, will work with China not only in advancing our cooperation framework within China to achieve China's ambitious targets that have been led both in the 14th Five-Year Plan and the 2030 Agenda, but work with China, share its important lessons with the rest of the world.